What's up, guys? Welcome to Make It Yourself. And for today's video, we're going to talk about adjusting a cable clutch on the 2007 Road King. So let's take a look at what I'm talking about. Damn it! All right, so two different bikes with very different clutches. You notice here there's no reservoir, and that's because we got a cable clutch, right? Versus Hefe here, he's got a reservoir because that's a hydraulic clutch. When you do, and I can't speak to that one because it may be the same or close or whatever, but for this one in particular, this is what we're going to talk about. The clutch should be adjusted in a manner where there should be a little bit of play in the clutch, about, I believe it's 1/8 of an inch. And I'm going to cheat. I'm going to use some airline that is exactly 1/8 of an inch in diameter to give myself kind of that spacing. But if you look right now, I've got zero play in this clutch. There's no play. And when I go to let the clutch out, it seems like I have to let it out further and further. It doesn't feel like it's slipping. So that is some of the things that you guys start thinking through, like, okay, do I need to replace the clutch? This is a 15,000 mile bike. Unless the person was new to riding, I can't imagine that there needs to be a new clutch in this. So I think it's just out of adjustment. And that happens too. So as you wear your clutch, you have to adjust it, right, to make up for that difference to an extent. So it's a pretty simple process. It involves dealing with that down there. So under this little boot is just kind of like a jack screw setup where it helps you remove slack out of the cable. And then what we'll have to do is take off the primary cover here, the derby cover, and that'll allow us access to the adjustment bolt that we'll need to work on in order to get things exactly where it needs to be. But again, simple process. I just want to walk you through it, and we'll get everything done, you know, the way it should be. So let's get started. So the first part of this is really easy. What we're trying to do is we're just going to take out all this, or we're going to give it all the slack that it needs, right? We don't want any kind of tension on it or anything like that. So you're going to want to use 2 wrenches. You can use, you know, whatever 2 wrenches you want that fit. I'm just using these because they were readily available. And I'm going to break this jam nut loose. This one hasn't been adjusted for a while, it seems like, which doesn't surprise me. Actually, what the hell is that? All right, so once you got it loosened, we're gonna just pull that, work this guy back all the way up. And then we're gonna do this lower one. Now this thing's got grease all over it, so I'm gonna give it a quick wipe down because making it hard to even twist it. All right, so now the slack is completely out of that, and the way you can tell is by looking here at the clutch. You see that? Now it's super sloppy, right? Just tons of... I can also feel it's a little rough squeezing this a little bit. So I'm going to end up removing this pin here to take this out, because there is buildup, dirt and grime gets in here. And it's not enough just to spray it with like a silicone or whatever like that. You got to clean it off too, because what happens is that silicone gets in there and then that grease collects dirt and it ends up turning into like a paste, right? So it's almost like a rubbing compound. So as you squeeze your clutch in and out, you're now starting to work your way through the actual housing there. So we'll pull that off here in a little bit. First, what we're going to do is adjust the clutch down there under the derby cover. Now, when you take it off your derby cover, you shouldn't have to worry about, one, you want to make sure your bike is level. So get it up on a stand. You're going to do this on a stand. And you shouldn't have to worry about a pan under it, because when you fill your primary, if it's done correctly, then it shouldn't pour out when you open up your derby cover, because you're not supposed to put that much in there. So once you broke those screws loose, just go ahead and take them out. And one of the things you have to be aware of is there's a gasket under here, so once you get the cover off, you want to take a look at the gasket, make sure there ain't nothing wrong with it. If it's old, beat up or whatever, then you may have to replace it. I think they're about 14 bucks or so at the local Harley. Now, if you got a 5-speed, I think it's only 3 screws. And if you're on a 6-speed, you got the 5 screws here. All right. So let's take that off. And in this case, it looks like it's just got the rubber ring. So I'm going to inspect that rubber ring, make sure it's good. Make sure it hasn't been pinched or has any, reason that it would leak. It looks good, so I'm not going to worry about changing that today. So let's take a look here now at what we're actually going to be adjusting. Okay, this is your clutch adjustment. So you're going to need 2 tools. You're going to need either a wrench or a socket that allows you to go all the way through, and you're going to need an Allen wrench to stick in the middle of that, right? Because what you're going to do is you're going to break this little nut loose, and it's not a whole bunch of torque on this at all. And then you're going to back this guy out. Once you back it out, you're going to put it back in, and the minute you feel the resistance, meaning it's touching things, that's where you stop, and then you back off about half a turn. Some people will tell you 3/4, some people tell you 1/4. You'll have to kind of judge it on yourself, like where you want it to be. Half a turn is pretty safe. So this is that socket I was talking about. These are really cool. I got this one. It was a Craftsman back in the day before Sears closed. So you want to just get that on there. And then take your Allen wrench. Go ahead and put that on there. Kind of hold it in place while you break it loose. So this thing is on way tighter than it should be. So I'm going to have to work at this because, yeah, this is way too tight. Shouldn't be that tight. Okay, so I've got it loose now, and I'll tell you, like, this thing was super tight. It shouldn't be that tight. I was really worried about stripping this thing. I couldn't get on it with a wrench, so I actually had to use a little bit of a cheater bar, PVC, with my Allen just to hold it because it was on so tight. That should not be the case. So now, all you need to do is loosen up that center screw. All right, you want to just back it out a little bit. You don't have to pull it all the way out. And you're just going to back that nut off, that jam nut. You want to wait until you feel it hit that resistance. And you'll feel it. I mean, so once you feel it, then you'll go ahead and tighten down that bolt, or nut, I should say, and jam it in, right? So you're just jamming it. So you want to hold it in place. Oh, and actually, I almost forgot. You got to do a half turn back. Okay. So I'm here. Oops. Guess you can't see that, huh? Let's back that up. So you see I'm at this angle here. So I'm going to do a half turn back. So basically a 180. That feels like a lot. So I'm gonna go quarter turn because it just felt like a whole bunch. So now at a quarter turn, I'm gonna hold that in place. Tighten down my lock nut, jam nut there. Again, you don't need to put a whole bunch of torque on it. Just enough to kind of get it locked in. Once that's set, you're done. You can close this thing up. So I'm going to go ahead and put my derby cover back on, and we'll go look at the clutch handle so we can clean that out. All right, so now we're up here on the clutch handle itself. We're going to go ahead and pull that out. And we just want to take a good look at it. Make sure it's clean. Actually, this looks pretty darn good. It looks clean. So I am going to put a little bit of silicone grease on here just to make sure we're all nice and greased up, and then put it back together, and we'll go ahead and start working on taking the slack out of the cable. All right, so now we have our handle in here. It's greased, it's ready to go. I threw some silicone or some lubricant down into the cable, so it's going to work its way down over time. And then I'm going to cheat. This is actually a piece of air line from the air ride stuff that I have, and that's actually 1/8 of an inch in diameter. So what I'm looking to do is to grant myself, now you see how much space is there. This should be just the amount of space, just the width of this, that I should be able to pull that out. So with that adjustment screwed down below, I'm going to start tightening it up or removing that slack, so it's separating the two tubes, because it's actually two lines there, or two tubes that the cable goes through. As it separates it, it's taking that, making the line more taut, right? So let me go ahead and get started. I'm going to leave you up here as I do it so you can see this line start to get kind of pulled in on its own, right? You'll see a little bit of movement here and here. Okay, so now that it's pulled the handle all the way out, now I want to put my little 1/8 gauge in here just to make sure I get that right amount. And you'll want to give it a couple of squeezes, make sure you get all that slack. I see how much more slack I got there now. So another turn or so, a couple of squeezes. Okay. Move the slack out. And that's about it, right about there. So that's my 1/8 of an inch. So I've got my slack in there. Now all I do is just, I'm going to tighten up the jam nut that was down here. And that's it. The adjustment is done. So once you've made those adjustments, now your clutch is fully adjusted. It's ready to go. Like I said, you want to make sure you have that little bit, just that 1/8. And if you need to do some small adjustments, you can always do it at that adjustment shaft screw thing there on the bottom to get that little bit of slack out of the system. So it's a simple process. It really takes maybe about 20 minutes or so to go through that. And yeah, it's just good maintenance on the bike. And then make sure, like I said, that you're lubricating things up like you should regularly. It's good scheduled maintenance, so you just want to make sure you get it done. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that thumbs up. If you enjoy my content, become a subscriber. I'm looking forward to having you as a member of our community. I'd love to hear your feedback, your input, recommendations, suggestions, any of your knowledge that you can share. Really is appreciated, not only by me, but by the other members in the community. And if you don't want to miss out on that next video, hit that notification bell. And until that video does post, I hope to see you in the wind.